If these extremely hot days seem more frequent, they are. So far this decade, 160 extreme heat days have been recorded. Compare that to just 21 in the first 3 years of the 1970s, when the research group Climate Central began recording them. WRAL's investigative data reporter Ali Ingersoll explains the risk that these days pose to our health.
You'd think on a hot day like today, this North Hills Swim Club would be the place to be.
This is hot. We can only spend a couple hours at a time up here because I think even the water gets so warm.
Kate Dudek brought her 2 daughters here for a little while.
Just stay hydrated, lots of sunscreen, and as much time as possible in the pool.
Doing something fun like taking a dip in the pool isn't only a good time, but can also reduce someone's risk for heat-related illnesses. Just last week, there were 320 visits to emergency departments around the state for those.
We can't escape it.
Dr. Luke Parsons, a climate scientist, says while silent, the increased frequency and intensity of temps pose serious risks. So far this month, state health data shows the number of weekly visits to emergency departments for heat-related illnesses has surpassed the annual average every week.
We don't think of it like a hurricane or a car accident or an airplane crash. Those things I think seem to be sudden and violent, and so we think of them as being scary, whereas when it's just hot outside, I think we tend to think of that as, I can just power through it and push through it. It doesn't really impact me, and you don't see it, you can feel it, and I think people convince themselves that heat doesn't impact them when heat impacts everyone.
For Raleigh and Durham, 80.5 degrees is when the heat starts to turn dangerous, according to Climate Central, an organization using data to track temperatures around the country. The data shows that last year we had 63 days above that threshold, the second most since they began tracking this information in 1970. And back then, there were only 8 days that broke that threshold. For Dudek, that increasing frequency of how hot it's getting is something she's concerned about, not just today, but for the future, for her 2 children as well.
You just keep reading about how this is the hottest summer, and you wonder with global warming if it's just going to keep getting worse.
For WRAL News, I'm Ali Ingersoll.